review. Book one what's all about. Books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a chronic pain mastery expert and the author of the book New Possibilities. No other than Mr. Alan S Weisser. Welcome, Mr. Alan, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Okay, so I'm a clinical psychologist, and for the last 25 years, I've been specializing in helping people with chronic pain. And that would include any kind of injury or disease. So, pain doesn't quite capture it because it can be all kinds of symptoms, but essentially dealing with chronic medical problems. Before that, just so you know, I've been doing this work for about close to 40 years. I spent most of my time before that working with the chronically mentally ill, 10 of those years in New York State, where I'm from, working in a state mental hospital. And before that, I was an attorney for quite a while.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Alan. Thank you. And today let's talk about your new possibilities. Let's talk about the broken alarm. A classic metaphor is the acute pain is at the fire alarm, but the chronic pain is a faulty alarm blaring along after the fire is out. For someone living with a daily blare, how do you begin to convince the nervous system that it's safe to turn down the volume?
While there's some truth to what you're saying, that isn't actually what's going on with chronic pain. It's not just the nervous system, it's not just a medical problem, it's an existential problem. So maybe I should talk a little bit about the approach.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you notice the book says mastering chronic pain. It doesn't say managing chronic pain. And chronic pain is anything that's persistent and that goes on beyond what they'd expect. But the real problem is when you look at a person who's got one of these problems, you're not just looking at somebody who has physical problems, physical harm, physical damage. You're looking at a person who's also been damaged emotionally, psychologically, and existentially. For example, most doctors don't consider that a lot of patients with these problems have lost a sense of identity and purpose. Now, those are existential needs. They may have had their thinking completely distorted and turned to the dark side, but they're not treating that either. How they react emotionally, they'll defer to somebody like myself to do the work, but they don't take into account how people manage the impact of having pain. And while I agree with you that all of this is going to affect the nervous system, but if people think that pain persists simply because it's some dysfunction of the nervous system or it's some psychological problem, they're really missing the point. More often than not, it persists because people don't know what they're dealing with. I'm a martial artist, and most chronic pain patients think that they're facing one or two opponents. They don't know that they could be facing 50, and they wonder why they're not recovering. Not to mention, there may be limits to how much you can recover physically. Certain conditions for the moment are not curable, but suffering's optional, and suffering has a profound effect on perpetuating pain. So, in that regard, I agree with what you started with. If you treat suffering and optimize a person's ability to contend with the problems they have, then even if pain persists, it won't affect them. It's more a question of how it affects functioning than the fact that you still have pain.
Okay, so Mr. Allen, the plain and as an output or not an input. The revolutionary idea is that pain is not a direct measure of tissue damage, but the brain's output based on perceived threat. What is the simplest, most powerful way to demonstrate this truth to to skeptic who feels the damage must be there.
The intake packet that I use with patients, which has been developed over the last 25 years, is 75 pages long. And what it's looking for is what we call collateral damage. So, for example, on a physical level, let's say you have a back problem, but
Yes.
because of it, you become physically deactivated, deconditioned, your sleep is disrupted, you become atrophied. Those are adding to the damage. They also inhibit recovery. Let's say that you lose your job, or your marriage falls apart, or you can't be there for your family. These are other kinds of damages. So upfront, we're assessing how many collateral damages, how many things have happened to you, not just the physical part of it, but what's going on in your life, right? The pain is not just in your body, it's in your life. So you're looking at up to 200 potential collateral damages, and the medical system looks at 10% of that. And that's part of the problem. And the medical system's also divided. It's kind of in your wheelhouse, right? If you're a doctor, you do this. If you're a therapist, you do that. It's not an integrated system. So when we have patients, we're actually the hub of the wheel. We go like, all right, let's look at the big picture. Let's look at how this entire life has been affected, and let's treat those damages, because treating the damages to your life is much more potentially successful and curative than necessarily treating your actual physical condition. And ultimately, you're right, the nervous system's going to adjust. It's going to relate to it. But the power is not coming from working on your brain. The power is coming from working on you. And people do not know that they have an inherent system given to them by evolution, millions of years of evolution. And we have something called the existential immune system. We have tools to actually address every problem that we encounter. We're designed to adapt, survive, and thrive. But people don't necessarily know they have a toolkit. And if they did, they don't necessarily know how to use it. Case in point, how important do you think emotions are in human experience? What would you
Well,
say?
pardon, Mr. Allen?
Think about the importance of, of emotions in
Yes.
human experience. They're important, right?
Yes, definitely, yes.
What most people don't know is that emotions have a functional purpose. They're tools. They're not just an
Okay.
experience. And ironically, the two most important tools for survival are the two least respected in our world: anxiety and anger. People don't know that these tools are designed to help you get out of any problem you run into. Anxiety is going to put you on notice when your needs are being threatened, and anger is going to help you to constructively deal with the threats. So you have chronic pain, you have all these collateral damages, threats to needs, right? Many needs, right? We're all about getting our needs met. You know how to use anxiety and anger, then you're going to be able to much more effectively deal with those threats and possibly put them to rest. If you're running away from it the way most people do, I don't want to deal with it, I don't want to be afraid, or they go over the top with anger, that's mismanaging of these emotions. Anger is not yelling, screaming, or hitting. Anxiety is not a panic attack. That's mismanagement. So, just as one example, if you know you've got tools that your emotions serve a purpose, sadness serves a purpose, happiness serves a purpose, and then you go thinking. Thinking is critically important in human experience, right? It's part of how we define our reality. But we don't know that certain forms of thinking don't represent objective truth. For example, judgmental thinking, assumptions, rationalizations. The point is, this existential toolkit is based on how optimally you use thinking and feeling. This model transcends traditional therapy. It transcends traditional treatment for chronic pain. They're all great, they have very important aspects, but this gets it down to you. You have the innate potential to deal with this at a level that you don't know and that your providers don't know either. And so what they do may help with that. It may even optimize it. But if they understood where the source is in the martial arts, it isn't my knuckles that break sports. It's me channeling my life energy, my chi, into those knuckles at the moment of contact. If your treatment channels your life force, your life energy, your potential into whatever the challenge may be, you got a much better chance of dealing with it and not having it run your life. You become the master whether you're having pain or not.
So, Mr. Allen, how about the body's biography? We know understanding the chronic pain is as a story the nervous system has learned to tell based on the past injury, stress, and emotion. How does one begin to rewrite the biography? Where do you even start with such a deeply ingrained narrative?
Hmm. I start with introducing people to the idea that all humans develop an operating system throughout childhood. They learn how to get their needs met and how to be safe. And that those operating systems, that operating system, the essential tools within that are thinking and feeling. So we analyze how well are you using those systems. You may not be broken, but you might have some non-user friendly features. The metaphor that we use is not therapy. It's not mental health or mental illness. It's the dojo. All right. You come to the dojo and maybe you kind of sort of know how to fight, but you want to learn how to fight to a level where you can more effectively protect yourself and prevent harm. So we say to people, let's look at the way you're currently operating in terms of that system you've got, and let's work on optimizing it. So it's an analysis of that. But rewriting the brain, this is the part that's really important. You probably know this that in depression, medication stabilizes people, but it doesn't cure. And there's a reason why. But if you know about neuroplasticity, you know that experience changes the physical structure of the brain. We take people through this process, and when we're measuring the brain before and after, you would see changes. That's why therapy is what actually helps to cure depression. The medication just keeps it stable so you can work on it. What we do is the same thing. We go, you may need medications and certain treatments in the short run, certainly to help you, but also to keep you stable. But we need to evolve you. We need to optimize your operating system. And I can tell you, and I say this truly with all humility, it's staggering how well this approach can change things with people. And the only reason why I even thought to develop this or knew anything about it was because I started a lot of my work as a therapist working with the chronically mentally ill and realized very quickly you don't treat the disease, you treat the person. Because those patients, their whole lives are destroyed. And when I met the chronically pain population, I go, well, they're not psychotic, but their whole lives are trash too. So this has always been a holistic approach. And that's why it has the impact that it does.
Holistic approach. So let's talk about the map versus the territory, Mr. Allen. The brain's body's map can become distorted in a chronic pain. How can someone begin to gently redraw the map to reclaim an accurate sense of their body?
You familiar with the Hall of Mirrors in an amusement park? You know, those mirrors you look at and they distort what you look like.
No, Mr. Allen. Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, if you look at this is old-fashioned amusement parks and carnivals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The mirror might make you look overweight, it might make you look skinny, it might make you look tall. It's supposed to be fun because it distorts the way you look, right?
Okay.
Most people don't know that they're living in the hall of mirrors when they have chronic pain. That they see themselves reflected through the eyes of the people who are treating them, their family members, the society, and often the images that are coming back do not represent objective truth. And they don't know any better because they've never had that experience. And so they become distorted. And of course, the issue you keep getting back to is that also affects the structure of their brain, which influences the way they think or manage their feelings. So, like I said, ultimately, it's being able to work your way through what you think you know to helping you understand what you need to know. And once you do, once you tap into that power, that potential that you've been given by evolution, you think about this. I don't know about you, but I didn't get a warning label when I was born that said life comes with side effects. Did you get one of those?
Mm-hmm. No.
And people think that bad things don't happen to good people. No, life is dangerous. Being alive is dangerous. It's also wonderful. So if you understand that, you understand that you may or may not be able to prevent certain damage. But the real goal is to be as prepared as you can be. You study the martial arts, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to keep yourself from harm, but you have a better chance of doing that. This system I keep talking about is giving you the tools to deal with that. You optimize those tools. Stephen Hawking's, Beethoven, Helen Keller, there are all these people that overcome things where you go like, how do you do that? Right? They do it because they have tapped into this potential. And there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. And then they do things we think are impossible. Right? I recovered from a broken neck at age 12 and a half. That took me 3 years to recover from, that I was told I would be permanently crippled by. I didn't know what I know now, but there was a part of me that wasn't really willing to buy into this is it, learn to live with it, which is not a good message, by the way. So, this idea of achieving potential, of tapping into it, it's something a lot of people kind of know about, but they don't know exactly what it is and how to use it.
Hmm. So, Mr. Allen, for someone whose world has shrunk due to the fear of flare ups, movement is medicine can sound terrifying. What does safe, truly pays exposure look like? How do you find the starting line that feels like a challenge, not a threat?
It's a great question. One of the things that's incorporated into the approach with patients is what we call flare up management. Most patients, when they have flare ups, don't know why it happened, and they don't think they can know why it happened. But I've gone through this thousands of times, and there's always a pattern. So if they analyze it each time they have a flare up and they make note and they go like, here's the typical pattern. Maybe I did a little bit of extra exercise. Maybe I had a stressful moment. Maybe something happened. That it's not out of the blue and it's not a mystery. Just like panic attacks are not a mystery if you analyze them. So they analyze the patterns that might lead to it. For example, if they mow the lawn and it flares up their back, I'll say to a patient, how about you spend 5 or 10 or 15 minutes before you mow the lawn doing some stretching and warm up? Treat it like an athletic event. And then afterwards, do a cool down and maybe pace yourself differently. Well, next thing you know, they're not flaring up when they mow the lawn. So you analyze that, but also psychologically, most people that have a flare up go, oh my God, they get angry. They start thinking this will never end. And they're going down the rabbit hole with that. But if they remember that they have interventions they do when they have a flare up, which everybody knows, but they don't track their own history. They got 15 things that might help when they have a flare up, but they don't have that list handy. If they did, they go like, okay, I don't like this, but I can't know that it'll never end. I do have a set of techniques I can use. It changes the mindset because otherwise, every time you have a flare up, you're compounding the problem. Your negative reaction to that, your thinking and feeling is making it worse. Right. So
Mhm.
these elements to managing chronic pain have an antidote. But these are great questions because these are bringing up things that people are not being educated about by any of the other providers. The book not only offers an analysis of what you're up against, that's unraveling the mystery, but it also says this is what you do with it. You start treating life as an athletic event. If you're limited by your pain in terms of actually exercising, well, how about when you turn the doorknob? You can tense your wrist, right? You can tense your forearm. Walking up the stairs, you can focus on your hamstrings. You can use your day to day activity as a way of enhancing your strength and flexibility. There's a lot of practical solutions to dealing with this and more sense of power, right? Remember, mastery? It's not like I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do. A lot of patients think that it's simply not true, but nobody's helping them to know what they can do.
Mr. Allen, as a chronic pain mastery expert as well as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
I'm sorry, that last part.
What are your short term and long term goals?
Short term, long, great question because within the next few months, we're launching a full educational program. So it won't just be about seeing me as a therapist. Uh, that may well continue, or you may see me more as a consultant, but we have pre-recorded classes in this approach, and also we'll be doing live webinars and maybe a podcast. This is no longer going to be thought of as therapy. This is the dojo. And if you want to learn to master not just physical chronic pain, anything that's overwhelming, because this approach works with all of it. Second book I'm working on is called Mastering the Overwhelming. Come to the dojo. Learn those tools that are part of your existential immune system. Practice, all right? Because seeing me once a week isn't enough time to practice. And most patients have a hard time getting started. When I trained in the martial arts, I was there 25 hours a week because the frequency and working with other people is the best way to learn. So, the long term goal, and hopefully not too far down the road, is to turn this into a dojo, a full scale training and educational program. A lot of this work can be done. We want to create self support groups. Right now in chronic pain, there are no support groups that use a technology like they do in Alcoholics Anonymous. This model is a technology that people can work with together on, just like students train together in the dojo. So, the long term goal is to get this out there, to have it be visible. This is a very important piece of information and approach, and it keeps evolving. It's hard for me to talk about it without thinking I'm being arrogant. I really don't think so. This is powerful, and I know it's powerful because I've seen it work across thousands of patients. So I want this out there. I want people to be aware of it. I'm doing podcasts as a way of sort of getting that information out there. We're going to get to the formal approach that people use these days to become more visible. We finally gotten involved in signing on with a marketing company. We have so much information and material. This book is great. But this book was 1,500 pages until my editors trimmed it back to 370. There's another two or three books worth of information about this that have gone even beyond what's in the book. And the book has a lot of really important information.
Hmm. Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. Allen, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
If you have the potential that I'm telling you have, that I think has been provided to you, and every human has it, we're all potentially Stephen Hawking or any of these other people that have overcome the impossible. I understand why people feel helpless. I understand why people get angry. I understand why people are led to believe, unfortunately, that that's as good as it gets. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. If you take every challenge as an opportunity instead of some kind of being victimized, it changes everything. And not everybody's oriented that way. I consider myself fortunate that I've always seemed to be oriented that way. I was told that I was so fragile from my broken neck that I would be a cripple my whole life. Sorry. I found my way through that just by sheer persistence and will. Might have gone the other way, but understand you got the power. You have the potential. If you understand that, you'll find a way. You never lose who you are. You may be different, you might have a different iteration of who you are, but you are never going to be somebody other than who you truly are. But find out who you are and optimize that.
Thank you for that piece of advice, Mr. Allen. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season as well, comedy 101 in third season, and food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101, our fifth season, science 101, sex 101 in a fourth season, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Allen, who are you without the pain story? After years of identifying as a pain patient, the idea of loosening that identity can be frightening. What does the process of rediscovering interests, values, and a sense of self outside the pain experience look like?
Find the mirrors that reflect who you really are. In people, in situations, in life, there are mirrors out there all over the place that will show you who you truly are.
Well, Mr. Alan Weiser, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our book, your advocacy, your podcast, or whatever projects that you're doing right now. Mr. Alan, can you please invite our listeners?
Invite them like to where to connect.
Yes, please. Where do people buy your book? Is it on Amazon or everywhere?
Yeah, the book is on Amazon. You can just put my name in there, Dr. Alan Weiser, and you'll find the book. You can get to it from the website too, New Options Inc. But
Y-
Amazon's easy. Just go on.
Yes, people, let's support
Very
the
good.
Mr. Alan Weiser, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering book like this to rise. I have one more question, Mr. Allen. A message of hope for someone lying in bed, feeling define their pain. What is the most important evidence based and compassionate truth you want to tell them know about possibility of change?
Change is built into the way we are. And I've been confined to a bed. I was in a bed for over a year with recovering from my broken neck. I wasn't even allowed to get out of bed. I had to spend a year after that learning how to walk again because I was so atrophied. Listen, maybe you're confined to a bed, maybe there's no way out of it. I am not interested in being any more helpless than I have to be. If you can't get out of bed, find a way to have a life in bed, but find a way.
Find a way, people. Mr. Allen as Weiser, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Modikan people.